Alright, so this is going to be my review for the movie Shockwaves from 1977. I kind of stumbled upon this one in a very, not a super weird way, but I've mentioned this company before. There's a company called Waxwork Records. They put out really good vinyl um, editions of movie scores, and one of their main kind of genres that they do is horror. Horror movies have some pretty good scores and soundtracks, and this is one that's coming out for them. They just released the score of this movie Shockwaves on vinyl just last week, so I wanted to watch it and see if it was worth picking up. I have a lot of their stuff. It's really good, really well done. So whenever they have something like that coming around and it's a movie I hadn't seen, I've interested about, like to check it out. Plus, I start watching a lot of horror movies now because it's October, almost October. So I like to watch a lot of horror movies in the month of October for the season. So yeah, I hadn't really heard much about this movie at all. It's directed by Ken Wiederhorn. He also wrote the screenplay, co-wrote the screenplay with John Kent Harrison. Hadn't heard of him. He doesn't have much on his filmography. Looks like after this he directed Return of the Living Dead 2. I really love Return of the Living Dead, but not sure about the second one. I haven't seen the sequel yet. So, also cast wise, I guess the cast is a little more recognizable. The big name that is on this is Peter Cushing. Really big. I think it's Hammer Films. Did a lot of horror films for Hammer. I think he wasn't Dracula, but he was Van Helsing, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then there's also Brooke Adams is in this, so she did Invasion of the Body Snatchers and what's their other big movie? Let's double check. Days of Heaven. So she did Days of Heaven after this, as well as Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Were both in '78. She did Dead Zone in '83. She's probably like the second biggest name. This is like one of her first big movies. Anyways, getting to the point. This is a very interesting plot. So there's this random group of people. They're taking a boat. It's kind of driving around, kind of like I don't even know if it's a reef area, but they're going around, kind of doing some scuba stuff. Brooke Adams' character is, and it's like her. Random guy, single guy by himself, like maybe late 20s, early 30s. There's a married couple, and then there's the captain of the boat, played by John Carradine, and then there's like the deckhand guy, second in command. And so they're all this like kind of little boat, just kind of cruising around. They never really say what they're doing, but driving around, start seeing kind of like a ghost ship. They almost get hit by this ghost ship, and then they end up they run aground, have to go to this little island, and when they're on the island, they meet Peter Cushing's character. He's like a old Nazi SS commander, and then when they're on the island, he tries to get them off as quickly as he can, but it's too late. That ghost ship was apparently a ship that he had brought over from Germany with this crazy secret SS unit from World War II, and they're just uncontrollable. And he brought them to this island and sunk the boat and killed them all. That's what he thought. And so then they're coming back now as zombies. And that's the movie. So it's this group of people from a boat. They get trapped on an island and they have to escape these crazy zombie Nazis. And so that plot description is really bad because there's like almost no exposition in this movie. They don't really explain a ton of stuff, especially at the beginning. Like I don't really know what anybody's doing on this boat because they don't say what anybody's doing on the boat. The only exposition you really only get is from Peter Cushing's character. It explains to them what these creatures or these people are that they're supposedly supposed to be dead Nazi commandos, and So there's Nazi zombies. Um, yeah, not a lot of exposition. It's a very, very slow and steadily paced. It doesn't really ramp up too much. It's kind of weird. So there's a lot of things that are kind of going on. So I thought it was going to be really boring. I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be boring, especially because of how slowly it's going. But it stays pretty interesting, and it's still like slow and steadily paced throughout the entire movie. And you think it'd be boring, especially for like this kind of movie, but it works. It still kind of works. Um, but with that said, I was one of the reasons I was watching this was to see if I wanted to pick up the score. I think the score was okay. It could have been used much better, especially for all of the more intense action scenes when people are getting attacked and there's these kills. The score is either absent or it's just very steady, just like the whole movie, just like slow and steady. It never picks up, it never ramps up, and you can do that really well with the score. So I thought that was a big missed opportunity that could have made it a lot more energetic, and it doesn't do that, unfortunately. Um, with that kind of steadiness, it's not very suspenseful. It's very matter of fact. This is what's happening. These people need to get out of here. Some of them do, some of them don't. It's just kind of it's very blunt and just straightforward. Um, and that's kind of too bad because it could be a lot more thrilling and suspenseful. And I think some of that also is that a lot of the kills, pretty much everybody that gets killed, it's off screen, and that's just not what you want to see in a horror movie, really. I mean, that's one thing. An off screen kill can be more effective in some cases, but when they're all off screen and you don't see any of them, it's just it's not impactful at all. And one of the things they do is these like Nazi zombie guys, they come out of the water. It's kind of like their thing. They're from the water, so they will pull people down and like drown them. But then they just pull them down and then you don't see them, so not very effective. I thought that was another big miss. Um, like I said, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and especially with those problems, with how slow and steady it is, off-screen kills, score could have been used better. It is still engaging. I was still, with it the whole time. I was still pretty entertained and sticking with it. It has good visuals. I think if they could have fixed a couple of those things, it would have been really, really good because it has these like pretty interesting visuals with these Nazis, coming out of the water, kind of like bad comparison, but more recently, like Pirates of the Caribbean, how they have these zombie pirates. It's kind of like that, but there's these zombie Nazis, and they're in the water, so that's their thing. That's like they're comfortable in the water, and they always come out of it. And whenever they do that, it looks really cool. It looks really good. I like that. I had kind of a feeling felt like a early Wes Craven movies, Last House on the Left, or The Hills Have Eyes. That's kind of the feel you'll get from this if you watch it. Another couple movies I thought of was Zombie from the 70s. It goes by so many names, but that's a really good movie. A lot of really good. They're also like on a somewhat similar situation. They're on an island, and there's zombies coming out of the ground. That has the shark fight scene. There's a zombie fighting a shark in that movie. That's really good. I definitely recommend that over this, but kind of in the same vein. Also got a little bit of Friday the 13th feel, just with like the water and stuff like that. How that's involved in the story is kind of similar, I thought. So yeah, one other thing, I never knew where they were. They never, like I said at the beginning, there's like no exposition, and it's okay. So movie's pretty interesting if you're looking for a pretty unique horror film from the 70s. I'd say it's okay. I'm giving it a 3 out of a 5. Not a great movie. Definitely other horror movies to check out before this, like I mentioned, Zombie, maybe some of the Friday the 13th or something. but it is a unique, different, and it was a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't have very high expectations, so yeah, 3 out of 5.